something early so that
Hmm.
way we weren't like way too deep.
Yeah.
Well, now I've learned about yeah, how to run the stream a little bit better. So I only do this once a year. Um,
There we are.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience while we got started and basically had a little warm up back here, sharing each other's snacks and beverages and testing everything out. But we finally got everything going, I think. So, yay, welcome. We're really excited for this beautiful Sunday and a great launch party day. I was just saying before Mint got here that. It is a little bit of a weird time if you're going by the lunar phases to be launching something because it's like, the waning moon. It's a time when you're usually wrapping things up, but here we are getting started. So I'm really impressed that we're already doing so well, even in this very weird time. So yeah, thank you everyone who's already backed the campaign. I'm
Oh
really
wow, we're
excited.
like a third of the way.
Really? Have you checked? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Woo.
I'm so excited.
Yay.
Oh, yay. Yes. So last year, I know we spent a long time in our call just checking about what everyone was eating and drinking. And since this year we have less people, it won't take that long. But I guess we just went around and showed each other. So we should probably share this with everyone else, though. They're gonna want to know about that tea that Melissa had.
Oh
So.
yeah.
Yes, that was we got to see it transform and maybe that was a secret just for us that everybody else will have to check out if they get their own butterfly pea tea. But I've got my green tea. I was telling everybody I had to quickly wolf down my own snacks as beautiful as they were because they were going to get soggy. It was some nice toast with slices of tomatoes on top from my garden. And if anyone wants to grow tomatoes, pineapple tomatoes, I highly recommend because the cross sections are just beautiful and they really hold their shape. They don't just like go to mush like some tomatoes do. So,
I like that.
yeah, definitely. And then, so what are you snacking on, Mint?
Oh, I've got a plate of yummy
Mm.
baked croissants and olives and grapes and cheese and jalapeno cream cheese and
Ooh,
crackers
that
and
looks so good.
peaches.
You guys make such really pretty platters.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love a platter of food over anything, any other kind of meal.
Yeah.
I
It's
love just like little things.
And it feels nice. Like, even if it's just a bunch of veggies, where like normally you're like, oh, a salad, so boring. When you like arrange it nicely on a plate, you're like, ooh, how fancy.
Yes, it becomes an exciting, sort of array of art.
Yeah, yeah. Melissa, you had your beautiful spread. Would you mind sharing that with everyone?
It has been munched on. We've got some rosemary olive oil bread, maple pecan pastry, some pound cake, salami, herb, goat cheese, and then some raspberries, some blueberries.
Wonderful.
And then my toasty feta cheese with honey and thyme, which is delicious, by the way, and it was super easy. So, highly recommend that.
That's great. Yeah, I was trying to pin some things to my Pinterest board of like snack ideas for the Hazel launch, and I did find like a baked feta thing where I was like, now that sounds deliciously easy.
That's exactly where I got it from. That's the
Okay,
Pinterest board.
Oh,
that's what I thought. Okay, I have to check that out because I only have feta crumbles in my house right now. I don't have like a brick of it or anything. So,
I
yup.
went to the nice grocery store this morning to pick up some baked goods because I didn't have time to make anything. Um,
Uh,
but they had the good feta,
oh, nice.
not messing around.
Yes. Now that I think of it, I do have something that I picked up this morning that I had intended to eat all in one sitting, but it was like a Belgian waffle with Nutella drizzled on top, and I have half of that waiting for me. That could be my snack right now. Yeah, I definitely didn't have any time to do anything else this morning than monitor the Kickstarter launch and try to make sure that this is all set up. And so I really want, I think last year I made um, Earl Grey chocolate chip cookies, which were really, really good. Yeah, highly recommend. But this year it was all I could do to make that little bruschetta kind of open faced sandwich. And yes, this is like the thing is I wanted to make some kind of floral iced herbal tea, but I already have so many fun little what's like the beverage equivalent of knickknacks, like like cute little things around in my fridge where I was like, ooh, I can just put in some elderflower cordial and a few drops of rose water, because if you get rose water from like one of the Middle Eastern grocery stores, it is very flavorful. It is so strong, it's delicious, but you only need like a couple drops. And then I was like putting in a couple drops of lavender extract, like, is this too many flowers in one glass? But yes, no, never too many. So then it was just garnishing with some herbs from my garden, and it's delicious.
I mean, that's why they call it a bouquet of flavors, right? Aromas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And also I
The
thought,
better.
hmm, the
The
more
more
flavor,
flowers, the better. So,
yes. Yeah. I also thought this seltzer was flat because I put it in the fridge last night, and thankfully it's not. It's got all these nice little bubbles, but it's not like too bubbly where it like kind of burns your nose when you first pick it up. So maybe it's a good thing it was in the fridge all night.
Feel like that when you drink something so carbonated, it just like goes up into your brain.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
Lucy, is it possible for you to turn closed captioning on in the Google Meet from your end?
Yes, it may not be very accurate, but if this will help at all, let me see. It says captions have been turned on, but I might have it cropped, so I don't know if people will be able to see it.
Okay.
I'll just take a quick look. Okay. Yeah, you can see a little bit of it. All right. Hope that's helpful. It looks like most of it is showing up, the crap closed captions. It's doing the best it can with me not being able to say all the words that I want to say. So,
yeah, I can see it.
Cool.
yes, great. Um, yeah, so let me see.
That's so silly.
Oh, the audio is really quiet for everyone but me. I can try to work on that too, actually. Um, hmm. Just turn myself down a little bit and then hopefully that does the trick. Okay. So yeah, people in the chat, Kusera, good to see you. One of our good contributors from past issues as well. Let me know, yeah, and I can turn myself down more so that y'all can turn up the overall volume, and I'm not the loudest person in the group. But yeah, hopefully closed captions helps a little bit too. So yeah, I wanted to ask some questions about um, everybody, what kind of creative projects you've been working on. I don't know if anybody brought some crafts to work on um, or any drawings. I have been in such a rush that I have not set up my drawing materials quite yet. But I'd love to hear if anyone's been up to some good projects lately.
Yeah, so I'm currently just working on something for my Patreon, but
Mm,
I've been taking a little bit of a break from my main project this year, which is a graphic novel that's like a dark fairy tale themed. It's called The Witch of Ashwood,
mm,
and it was actually funded partly by a grant from the North Carolina Arts Council. So thankfully, they've allowed me a very big grace period to get that finished because I was about halfway done with inks by May, which it had a end of June deadline. So I, had to tell them I can't quite get it done, but I'm really excited to be given the time, like the proper time to get it finished, so it looks the best that it can be. So that's something that's currently in the works.
That's great. Yeah, I'm really glad that you were able to get an extension for that and everything, because I know that with the Arts Council and things like that, they don't want you to have to, say you can't do it and give back the money. They would like to see you succeed. So whatever that means, if you can give them a new proposal and get that up to date, then
Yeah.
I'm
I
sure they
sent them a new
appreciate that.
timeline too, for when I hope to get it finished, which, I was hoping to get it done by June or July, but now it's pushed to next January. But still, I need that time. And I'm also preparing my own Kickstarter in October for, less cute things that aren't horror related since it's a horror anthology. But I need to give myself the proper time to finish both things. So I totally know what it's like to juggle too many things that you want to make and not have enough time. So,
I love the crossover between Hazel contributors and your horror zine contributors. Like I love the balance there.
yeah, yeah. And the anthology is called Paroxysm. So, in case you want to look that up at some point. But yeah, both Thais and Melissa are contributors to that and also contributors to Hazel. So, it's
Yes.
nice to have, like, it's almost like we have multiple personalities or something.
The light side and the dark side, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh. I was like, who's that? Oh, it's you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it's you.
That's fine. Uh, yeah, no, I think a lot of times, a lot of the like witchy media that I grew up seeing out there, I love it. It's just all with like much more of a dark and like gothic kind of style to it. So I was like, when I was putting out Hazel, like, are people interested in something that's like totally not that aesthetic at all? But yeah,
Absolutely.
luckily, yes, a lot of us are, especially nowadays. It's like silly to even ask that question. I feel like now in 2021, whatever year this is, it's
Right.
like yeah, basically. Yeah. It's like, yeah, now with, obviously cottagecore and like dark academia and all these kinds of aesthetics that have come up, and then it's so obvious. Yes, people really like multiple facets to this kind of magical um existence, I guess. And so, not just the dark, spooky stuff, which is so super fun. And I cannot wait for October and Halloween and my favorite time of year.
Yes.
But then also like the more soft, gentle, brightly lit kind of things too. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I really like that. Um,
And I know someone posted about the new Halloween collections. I don't know if it was Michaels or someone.
Oh yeah, from Michael's. Melissa
Yeah,
had posted about Michael's craft store's Halloween collection, and they have some like really
it's
pretty.
so nice and magical.
Yeah, yeah. It's way too tempting to go spend all your money on that.
Yeah, so definitely a different tone from the typical like Spirit Halloween stuff, which I love, but if you're looking for something a lot more aesthetic and something you can actually decorate your house with year round, then some of that stuff looks really nice.
Yeah, especially if you're one of us who likes it to be basically Halloween year round, then it's nice to have some options. Change it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Thais, I think your creative pursuits have also been for the Paroxysm anthology lately, right? Are there any other things that you're working on right now creatively?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
drawing of that.
Oh,
Oh,
That's so cute.
And then like she carries a backpack with them all in there. So that's kind of what they look like.
oh,
that's
Love
yeah.
so
it.
nice.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm working on. I'm gonna color it now.
I
Oh,
love
that's
that it
fun.
looks like it has the shape of a little house in
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Like
That's
that.
yeah. I wanted it to look like a little shrine, a little homey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are just waiting for our physical copies of Wander Home, this role-playing game to come in. We've gotten the PDFs and we've been going off of those for a while, and there's like a free-to-play one, but there's so much in that game that's just like open to exploration and creativity, and there's just like a little bit of a guideline and like inspiration that's kind of in the book, and then you just make up everything else. So I really love yeah, what Thais has been coming up with for her character class, which is the caretaker, right? um and yeah, so the caretaker is somebody who looks for the small and forgotten gods and tries to you know, I guess take care of them. I guess it's part of the character to have like a kind of backpack or something that you carry. Um, in the picture in the book, they have like a wheelchair, and the wheelchair has like a bunch of like pockets and stuff for all the small gods. And so, like, the way that Thais has interpreted the gods and the way that her character like interacts with them and carries them around has been so much fun and so interesting. I don't know. I really love that like little sandbox for play that that game has created.
Oh yeah.
I like how you put it, a little sandbox to play in.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it feels. Like you've got some guidelines and rules, but you can kind of pretty much invent however you want the game to go, or where to go, or what to do. So it's very liberating and fun. And I base my character off my own cat, so
Oh,
there
yes.
we go.
That's a great way to do it. Yeah. Melissa, what have you been up to lately? I don't know what your creative projects have been like these days.
That's a good question. I'm working on a piece of short fiction for Proxysism,
Mm.
which has been exciting for me because I don't. It's kind of my first foray into horror. I really,
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
I really like horror, but I've never written it. So it was kind of an exciting and intimidating adventure. But I'm happy with what I did. Um, Otherwise, I always have 85 things going on at a time. I do a podcast that takes a lot of time. I am I run a website that takes a while,
Mm.
and I'm writing a novel that has been in progress for 85,000 years, and someday I'll reach the end of it.
Yeah, I'm also working on I'm working on a graphic novel pitch, and it's like I have hardly any time in my life for it right now, so I cannot wait to like get back into that, but it feels like something that I want to just dive into fully and just let that be my life for like the time that I'm working on creating the story and getting that outline down and getting those characters down to a point where I would feel comfortable like sharing it with other people and pitching it and everything. So I can imagine it's just all consuming for you right now.
I like to be busy.
Yes. Well, Mint, what about you? You're always coming out with beautiful new videos. Are you working on those, or are you working on other creative projects? What's going on in your life?
I'm working on a million creative projects. I'm always working on so many. You guys, I know you all know what I'm talking about. Just so many
Absolutely.
ideas pop into my head all the time. And I have, videos that I want to do. I have collabs that I want to work on. Scary Fairy Godmother, who's like my favorite YouTuber. I love her videos. We're going to do a collab soon, and I'm really excited about that.
Mm.
I don't know what we're gonna talk about. Some fairy stuff. I don't know. It's gonna be great. I'm very excited about that. I've also been working on like plant hats. Hats with like
Whoa.
plant
Oh,
leaves that stick
Oh.
out of the top, which I'm really excited about. I don't even know if I
Oh.
put it on if it'll like work as a hat right now because of the hair.
That's
But
amazing.
leaves
that's so
hanging off of the
cute.
top, which I think will be really cute.
Yeah.
And like mushroom purses, like mushroom house purses. I've been making some of
Oh,
these and working on like how to make it like a nice firm design because it's a little floppy, but it
Oh.
still works as a purse, and I'm
That's adorable.
obsessed with them. So I've been making these and just like lately I've been focusing on crochet and just crocheting because it's like one of the things that I can do when I'm not feeling well. I can
Mm.
still like
mhm,
lay down and crochet, you
mhm.
know, like an old lady, and put my feet up with the recliner, like watching Anne with an E and just crocheting. So yeah, that's what I've been doing mostly, aside from just like writing and
Mm.
yeah, videos.
Yeah.
I was gonna say your mushroom purse, the top of it looks like it could come off and be a hat.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that too, like with acorn hats.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, like acorn purses that also open the same way, and then like the top can be like a little acorn cap.
That'd
Oh.
be
That would be fun
cute.
to do. Yeah,
That
little
would be
acorn.
so amazing. Yeah, when I saw that purse that you made, I was like, "Oh my gosh, how did you just knock that out? That's incredible." Of course,
Are
we don't
you using
see.
a pattern or something?
No, I cannot read patterns for anything. Like I can
Oh.
Me neither.
notice them, you know, and I'm like, okay, maybe, but because of the way I learned crochet, I guess I just don't understand all the terms that people
Mhm,
use
mhm.
because like my mom would just say like do this and then I would do it, you know?
Yep,
So I don't know what
yep.
the
Mm.
terms are. So when I read a pattern or even look at a pattern, my brain just goes, you know, that meme with the lady with all the
The
equations and
algebra.
shit, like that's what happens to me. I'm just like,
Yep.
so I just like I'll crochet and say, oh, if I do this, it'll go around, and then I'll just do it and try
Mhm.
it.
Mm.
So yeah, I really just wanted to. I saw everybody getting the mushroom purse, the like the straw one, like the wicker one. That's really cute, and I was like, oh, I love that, but like broke. Maybe I can just make one. So I have loads of yarn, so I was just like, let me just make a bucket and then a hat, and then put the hat on the bucket, and that's a purse, you know.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I did. That's how I made it. And it was really fun. And yeah, it
Oh.
was one of those like rainy day. You know, I didn't feel well, so I was just like, let me make myself a present to feel better because that's how I feel
Aw.
better.
That's awesome.
Oh.
So yeah, it was
Yeah. That's great. I feel the same way when I sew things. I don't actually really like to sew that much, but I like having the thing when it's done, and I like it being like a specific way. So,
Mhm.
I certainly, when I started learning to sew, I learned the value of like the labor that's put into it. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, you know what? I will just pay a lot of money to have somebody
for
make it
someone
for
to
me.
make it. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, like I know what it's worth, but I have been trying to make a lot of things with like my own fabric and stuff like that, like this one that I made a couple years ago, and I have a bunch more fabric I just ordered when there was a sale on Spoonflower, and I'm like slowly making my whole wardrobe like all my own stuff, but I think I've become a lot more disciplined about it. I used to really hate sewing to the point where, you'd rather like lie on the floor and complain than like
Mhm.
Mm.
actually sit down and do the work. But now I guess I have a higher tolerance for
Mm.
for that. So
I will
yeah.
say that's very similar to my approach to making comics. It's like I would rather look at the thing done.
Yes.
I can hold it in my hand and be like, "Wow, I really spent so much time and effort working on this." But in like the actual making of it, it's like you
Tough.
just despair.
Yep.
Mhm.
Suffering.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
somehow it manages to then get done and get to that point. So it's like it's almost like you forget all the effort that went into it when you see it.
Do.
Um, yeah. And it's like, let me do this again. It was so fun. And then it's like, oh,
No, it's
right. I
not.
forgot all the despair that goes into it. I mean,
Like,
I'm
there you
working
go.
on because I contribute to my own anthology, and I'm working on a comic right now for it that I'm really excited about, but it's only in the rough pencil stage, and I'm like, why aren't you done yet? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
When will be
This
done?
is terrible.
Do you want this?
Yeah, like can't you just finish yourself? Can't you just get like tell the
Yeah, can I
pencils
just
like
I
be
see, like,
inks now?
why am I not
Like,
seeing
is there
it?
not a spell that I can just cast and it's gonna be
Girl.
done?
It's like unfortunately it all takes work. Yeah. Oh well. But
I do enjoy the process. It's just, that it goes in phases.
yeah.
Yeah, we get impatient with it. It's like you're working on something for so long. You're like, okay, I'm done now, aren't I? I feel done, but it's not done.
Yeah, that's the thing is like also to the person looking at it who didn't make it. It feels like it was just magic. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't a book and now there's a book. Like you just waved your wand and it's there, but it's like no, there's no magic without an equal payoff, like
And
equal
stuff
work that you
takes
have to
at
put into
least
it. So,
and stuff takes at least 5 to 6 months of planning because you not only are making the book, but you're figuring out how to promote it and
Yeah.
doing Kickstarter stuff for it and reaching
All
out
the
to people that
artwork.
hopefully also like help you spread the word. So
yeah.
yeah, it takes a long time, but then it it's worth it. Like
Maybe.
Do
Yeah.
you hit do you hit a certain point with because like my primary creative expression is just writing, no illustrating, and very very little any kind of like physical crafting. But with writing, they're probably about half to three quarters of the way through. I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. It only belongs in the trash
Yeah.
can.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Do you
Always.
have that happen with every like other form of art as well?
Oh yeah.
Everything,
For
everything.
sure.
Yeah,
At least it's universal.
especially
Yeah.
with this book. It's just like no one's going to like it. Why did I even make it? What a waste of time. Like what if people back it and then they get it and they're like, wow, this is terrible. Like,
Oh.
No.
it
Yeah.
happens all the time. And usually it's like in the beginning, I have the idea and I'm really excited about it. And then I start laying it out and I'm like, why did I decide to do this? This looks so bad. Like, this makes no
Oh.
sense. And like, but then as I work on it, it's like, no, it's good. Like, I get feedback from people and they're not saying it belongs in the trash. So, I
Yeah.
must be doing something right. And then right when I'm done with it, it's like, God, I hope this works, and as soon as I launch, I just despair. Like this is the worst thing. And then when people get it in their hands, it's like, I hope this isn't the worst thing. But then I'm really excited to get it in my hands, and I'm like, that's it. It was good.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
learn so much from doing it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mint,
It,
do you have that with crochet too, or is it mostly like videos
Well,
and writing and like that kind of thing where you go through a process like that?
sometimes, I mean, rarely with crochet, but sometimes, like, the worst thing that happens with me with crochet is like color combinations that I think will work,
Oh.
or like, using different types of yarn or different stitches together. And I'm like, ooh, this would look so cool with this. And then I do it and I'm like, oh, that looks like barf. That looks
oh
and then I
no.
take it all out and do it over again. And you spent so much time
Oh,
creating it just to take it all out and do it over again. But at
Mm.
least you see that it looks like barf and you can recognize, and say, okay, well, no, that didn't work. What a bummer. But
yeah.
yeah, mostly with like other things like writing, I'll be so excited to write it and then I'll look at it and be like, that makes no sense to anyone but me. And then like that's the fear that I have with everything that I put out. I'm like, is this going to make sense to anybody else that's not me? Because
Mm.
they'll read it and be like, what is this like, mess of emotions and colors and like weird thoughts? And I'm like, yeah, that's my brain. Like, does anyone else see things that way?
And
No, just me.
you
Okay,
know,
cool. Like,
I think there's something to be said about like no one's going to like this or understand it but me because people want to know what it's like to have made something like that. And so it's like it's almost a good thing that you don't think it'll. I mean, there's a level of like, I hope this kind of comes across the way I
Yeah.
intended it, but at the same time, like, I'm always focusing on the things that I think people won't like about, my work, and then they're like, oh my god, but I love this stuff. And it's like, oh, I wasn't even paying attention to that. And that's great that you like you really like these other things. So it's almost like taking your own voice for granted,
True.
until people respond to it. So
That's very true.
Yeah, it's the level of paranoia that goes into making things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can kind of get sort of stuck in your own perception of it, that you need to walk away and ask someone else's opinion, and then they'll tell you something that you weren't expecting because you're focused in on this particular spot, but they're looking at the whole thing fresh with
mhm.
different eyes, and you're like, oh, so it doesn't suck. Cool. I'm so glad.
Yeah, that's true. I
Or they'll
know.
point out something
Enough to
that does
buy it.
suck,
Wow.
but then you can fix it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, I think also talking about, yeah, putting something together and then realizing that it doesn't look good and then having to take it apart is like also a level of your own like taste maturity, that you can see that it doesn't look good and you're able to fix it. Whereas, like, I think early on when I was learning to sew, I was like, I already put so much work into it. I don't want to have to undo all my work and start from scratch. But then what you end up with is like a product that you're not really happy with. So I had like all these like unwearable garments from when I was learning to sew, where it's like I could wear this once, but there's no easy way in or out of the garment because I didn't put in a zipper, I didn't put in elastic, like that kind of thing where you're like, no, this does not work. It's not a matter of like, I'm getting too much in my head and I think it all looks like garbage. It's like, no, this is a problem and I have to fix it. And having that kind of like, yeah, maturity of taste. Oh, Pippin.
We have
Um,
chickens.
He's
yes.
just crying. He's just down here crying, so I had to pick him up.
Oh, he's
Oh,
so good.
Hey,
hello.
puppers.
Yeah.
Oh, what a
Oh,
cutie.
I love that. Oh, he's such a sweetie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Now I can finally go back sometimes, and even though I'm like, I already put so much work into this and I hate that I have to redo it, I can just make myself push through, go ahead and like rip out all those stitches,
You rip
start it
out.
again.
Yep,
The worst.
it's your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is really hard for me too, especially with something that you worked so hard and so long for, and then you just get to a point where you're like, actually, no, this is awful. Like, do you just like put it in a bag in the closet, or do you actually take out the seam ripper and rip all the seams out and try again? It's hard, and sometimes the next day you can do it. Sometimes I'll have to
Yeah.
put it out of my face, and then the next day I'm like, it's a new day, now I can rip it out happily, like, no big deal. But in that
Mhm.
moment, like, I just, like, you just start freaking out and exploding and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stepping
So
away from
Sometimes you have to
it
put it
is,
away for months because
yeah.
you're
yeah,
so mad at
true,
Mm-hmm.
true. Especially when you buy like really nice fabric, like fabric that you spent a lot of money on, and it's
it. Hmm.
beautiful, and you have a clear vision of what you want it to look like, and it doesn't. And then you spend all the money on that fabric, and there's like no more of that fabric. Then you have to put it away for a year,
Yeah.
and then come back and try
Hmm.
to fix
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. I feel like we all kind of have artistic projects like that we end up just putting away and we're like, I'm going to work on something else right now. And then on those days where you're totally stuck on what you're working on, you can kind of go back to that closet of bad ideas or half-started projects or things that need a lot of love, and you can come to it with fresh eyes and be like, okay, this is a nice break from what I'm currently stuck on, to try and change my problem solving focus to something that's familiar but you know, but new in a way as well. And yeah, I've definitely been going back to my old garments that I made in high school that are like actually when I finally started to be okay at sewing. And I'm like, well, I won't wear this ever again, but how can I reuse this fabric and reuse as much of the good parts of it as I can so that it will be something, you know, that I can actually use and not just a waste of fabric, which is so sad. So,
Yeah, that reminds me of an illustration I did a few months ago that the previous year I made something for a show that I submitted but wasn't super happy with. But there were elements of the illustration that I really loved and put way too much time into.
mm,
So when it came down to doing a new illustration, I was like, why don't I just get these like plant elements from this other piece and just like plop them in as line art and like rearrange it. And it ended up being this really cool, surreal thing that I made that was almost like a recycled, like an upcycled illustration.
mm,
Um, and then it turned out, more satisfying than the first thing I made. So all of that effort didn't just get wasted and get lost in all my files,
yeah.
but I decided like, oh, I'll just use this and make something that I actually do like. And that's also been the case with a couple of sketches, like sketch files or inks that I started and thought they looked bad, so I put it away. But then months later, I'll be like, why don't I look through what I didn't complete and then pull something out, and then all of a sudden I have ideas, to make it better. So
Yeah. Yeah. That time away really helps. It really, really helps.
yeah.
Yeah. I know also when you're first starting out with whatever kind of art or craft that you are focusing on learning, then yeah, there is that kind of attachment to what you have done and the energy and effort that you've put into something where, yeah, I don't want to throw it away. I worked so hard on it. But even though it's not much comfort when you're just starting out, it's like that's not just being thrown away. Like you put in time to developing a skill, and that's going to look, you know, that's going to reflect in the next thing that you do, that you now have
Exactly.
that skill and that experience that you didn't have before. And if you make the same mistake again, hopefully it won't be as bad as the first time. And hopefully you just won't make the same mistakes again. But you're already on a path, and that's worth, you know, the ruined artwork or
Yeah.
tote bags or whatever you know that you're working on.
It's hard to think of a piece as not a waste, especially if it doesn't turn out like you want it to. But you're right. Like I have to remind myself all the time that it's still a learning process, and the next
Hmm.
thing is going to be better, or it may not be better. But at least you're more aware of the problems that need solving.
Yeah.
For your work. So that happens to me all the time.
It can be, I think, really hard to recognize that some projects are just for the learning process.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, like, it's okay to let them go. It's
Yeah,
really hard to let
hard.
work go, but I think you can learn from anything that you like start. Like it's always good to start something and learn from it than to hesitate and never start for the fear that it won't turn out as well as you hope.
Right. Very
Mhm.
true.
Very well said. Mhm.
But it's
Yeah.
it's hard. I don't
Yeah.
like
It
it.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially when we sometimes have so little time to work on our creative pursuits, then it feels like when you do have the time, you want to get something beautiful to show for it out of that time. And so you're really disappointed when you don't. But I don't know. I feel like there, yeah, if you do just keep going, there does come a time when you start to be okay with that, and you start to just be glad that you got a chance to sit down and do some watercolor or whatever. Like, oh, thank goodness, it was really relaxing to just sit down and do it. And even if it is not my favorite piece, it's like, Okay, but it was nice that that's something that I can spend time on, and that's something that I enjoy. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, I love painting. I've been painting so much lately, and it's been giving me so much joy.
oh
Just
Painting is so wonderful.
it is. It's
My
so.
favorite.
Oh man, I love it. Just whatever you want. I've been like putting Studio Ghibli figures like characters into like landscapes. Like
oh
I'll choose a landscape and I'll paint the landscape and then I'll put like little soot sprites or
oh
Totoro in the background and it's so fun. It makes like a
yeah
cute little fun piece of art that you have now and it's it's really fun to do and it's
yeah.
relaxing and it's such a nice learning process. Learning confidence in your strokes and stuff like that. It's really fun.
Mm.
I love to do it.
Yeah, I feel like having some kind of creative hobby that you do outside of like your main, like, this is how I make money, or this is how I'm known for, on Instagram or wherever your kind of career path is. Having something outside of that to like totally decompress is really nice, as well as like it strengthens your other skills. I feel like it gives you more of a perspective on things, and it maybe even like gives you new ways to think about other things, and like um I don't know, I guess I don't have the words to totally describe how it gives you new ways to think about things, but I think with painting specifically, there's like the spatial aspect of it, and the color and the light and the composition, and like I feel like that goes into other parts of your life and informs other things that you're doing, um, to kind of think about things in a visual and a spatial way like that. So, yeah. And you certainly notice like really good colors when you see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you see a sunset with the clouds giving off like just this perfect range of purples and pinks and like gold where the sun hits them, you're like, yes, I want to make a painting with those colors.
Yes, every sunset, every sunrise, every sunset. I'm like, I want to paint that. I need to paint this
It's
right there.
pretty.
Yeah.
It's so pretty. My goodness, it's such a man. That's like one of my favorite things about being alive and having eyeballs.
Yes.
Being able to
Yeah.
see the sunset, like, oh my gosh, what a gift! Like, what a gift to see that immense, like, colorful array just in the sky, just for free. You just look up and see it, and it's
I
just so
know.
Yeah.
it's so nice.
Truly. I feel like that's another thing, is that, in addition to creative pursuits outside of like your main area of focus, just like observing things, just like sitting around and being still and getting to see like little bumblebees landing on the flowers, and like
Mhm.
the grass blowing in the wind, or the way the light is hitting the leaves and the trees. It's like we're so lucky. I don't know, I have that kind of reaction to this sometimes, where I'm like, oh my gosh, the world is just so beautiful.
Yeah,
And
it really
Yeah.
is. It really is. And like I feel like we're so discouraged from talking about those types of simple things like that because people are like, "Oh my God, you're such a hippie," or like your head is in a cloud and all this stuff. And I'm like, "And what? And
yeah.
so what?"
So
Yeah.
what?
Like I'm so lucky to be able to appreciate just the regular things that we get to see and live with. Like that's amazing that I can notice that. I'm sorry you don't. Like
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
oh, it's so cool. Like are you kidding?
Yeah.
Bumblebees are so cute. Their bodies are all fuzzy and they got those little legs that just will shake you out when they fly. That's adorable. Like
Yeah.
It's
it's
so
a treat. It really is. I
It
always
is.
imagine living on another planet without any of those things and just everything's one color and it's monotone and there aren't any, bugs and I imagine like going from that kind of existence to Earth and being like everything's so explosive and alive and amazing and like I
And
feel like we're so
colorful and
lucky. Yeah, and
yeah.
noisy and like feeling wind and stuff when you're hot and a breeze comes. Like
yeah.
that's top
Yeah.
tier right there. Like that's top tier. It's so great.
Is. And I think because of this past year, I've definitely grown to appreciate nature even more. because I remember like during the springtime last year, I was really sad that I was going to miss, all the hydrangeas blooming and the roses and the cicadas and like, it really it hit me that oh my gosh, this stuff is really important. And
Yeah.
I tried to observe nature out, in my studio as much as I can. Since my studio's in the sunroom, I have these big, window panes in front of me, and so it's just like, oh, you're there, but I'm here, and I really miss that. So being able to go back and at least walk around more and be able to appreciate that, I think is something that I'm sure a lot of other people um, absolutely feel is even more important and is more valuable than, how we've been taking it for granted for so long.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of undervalued too, just taking the time to appreciate and learn new skills that aren't marketable, or to, look at a sunset or whatever.
That
I think that's undervalued as far as like being part of the creative process. I
Mm-hmm.
think curiosity and interest in the world are wonderful for creativity and even essential to creativity, regardless of what kind of art it is that you create.
For sure.
Mhm.
Like that's something that like something I struggled with last year, was kind of, feeling detached from the world. And I played shoot, what is the name of it, a game released last year by Jian Shim and Xingyin Core. It was a journaling game about cryptids, and I wrote a review, and I should know this.
It's not okay. I feel like I know the name of it. I don't think I can help you.
It's like a
Uh
meditation game.
I've got it here. I just Field Guide to Memory. That's what it
okay.
is.
Yes.
Mhm.
So Field Guide to Memory is a journaling game, and last year I was struggling a lot with creativity and feeling, detached, especially just with everything happening. And a lot of that game is the act of embodying this character, and writing as this character, but it also includes things like prompts to just do sit stays, which are basically
Mm.
just going outside for 5 minutes wherever you are. It doesn't matter what your environment is. If it's in the middle of the city, if you live in, a rural space, if you have a park nearby, whatever it is, to go out and sit and stay and don't look at your phone. Don't, do your best to be in that moment and gain an
mm,
appreciation for whatever part of the natural world is around you,
Mm.
and really connect with it. And that was so beneficial for me, and like kind of helped reinvigorate my creativity in this time where it was very easy to feel, detached, and like creative work didn't have a lot of value.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's kind of that. Honestly, Jianshim and Xingyin Core both make just really incredible. I mean, all kinds of works of art, but their games in particular are just so amazing. Um, I did. I keep backing them on Kickstarter. They take like 90% of my income a year, I think. Uh, Xingyin Core released one a few months ago called Amending, which is an embroidery game.
Oh.
Which I happen to have my map here.
Oh.
You,
Oh,
it's a it's
wow.
sort of a personal storytelling game where you draw cards when you cross a different space on the grid, and then you get a little prompt that helps you build the story as you travel from wherever you decide your home is, which my home was up here. And then you travel to wherever you have like a long lost friend you're going to visit for the first time in a long time, and you
Mm.
travel to their house. And then, like for example, one of my prompts was that I picked up a dog
Oh.
around here,
Oh,
and so
that's
I
so
had to do
cool.
a separate path for the dog before the dog left on its own journey.
Oh.
That's
That's
so
so
Um,
cool.
cool.
and like
You're
the
making your own piece
mhm.
Yeah.
with that.
cute.
And the thing, like one of the things I really, really value about their games is the fact that like they are this mixture of like the appreciation of a new craft, because I didn't know really how to embroider, but this gave me permission to start.
Mm.
um, and it's low stakes, and I still get to have the fun of like telling a story and playing with it in a way that if I sat down to just like, okay, I'm going to make something beautiful with this skill that I
Mm,
don't really have, that's much more intimidating than like going into it with the expectation of playing.
Yeah.
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 So that's
Yeah.
my
That's so cool.
that's my soapbox about Jian Shim and Xingyin Core's incredible
That's
games.
awesome.
That's awesome. I
I
think it's hard to, oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's really hard as creatives to think of what we do as like not just work or something that needs to be marketable. And
Mhm.
I can actually draw for fun. Like
Mhm.
that's weird to me because even when I draw to relax, it's not really relaxing. It's like, oh, it's stuff I'm gonna put up on my Instagram later, or just whatever. And it not needing to necessarily have a use outside of it's for personal fulfillment is like definitely something I need to practice more.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
several thoughts about this. One of which
Mhm.
is that I did back Amending on Kickstarter, and I kind of regret only getting the digital version because that's
Oh.
such a big part of it is actually doing the embroidery. And like, I really like the thoughtfulness of like having a tactile component to the game, whereas that's not something that's a part of a lot of like tabletop role playing games or journaling, one person role playing games. And so, like, getting people out of their comfort zone a little into a place where you are being asked to literally feel something is
Yeah.
like very powerful, I feel like. And I think, part of that having that literally feeling touching something is also to emotionally feel something, like it's a prompt for that too. And that's just so lovely to me. And the bringing in embroidery as something that most of these players probably have never done before, it reminds me of like, craft boxes you can buy at the store, or the wine and design things like that, where like I think as artists who are really committed to doing our craft all the time, those can be kind of confusing for us because it's like you're just dabbling, you're already taking like a pre-made thing and you're getting into it, but it's really another space to play. And like there's just so little space for adults to play like that in our
Mhm.
modern day. And so just like whenever I see people in those like wine and design kind of classes or something, I really get that sense from them that this is something so joyful for them to be able to like go back to something that they haven't done since they were a kid,
Yeah.
and like just engage in art purely for like the tactile sensations and the visual sensations of like playing around with paint on a canvas or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Um,
how you said it's confusing because
Mhm.
it absolutely like that's a great way to put it. It's like
Yeah.
this is so confusing to us that engage in it all the time. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you just go to a place and do this other thing. Like, you know,
you
Why?
you don't.
I don't paint. Like, I'm really terrible at painting. So I did wine and design once, and it was like this is weird because I'm expecting out of myself to make something that is good, and I haven't painted anything in a million years because I'm just not good at it. So it was interesting to just be in that environment where it's like I just get to put the paint on the canvas and
For fun.
not worry or try not to worry that it's gonna
Mhm.
look whatever.
I was really fortunate. I got to interview Jian Shim and Xingyin Core about Field Guide to Memory and this like
Mm,
genre of games that they've pioneered called keepsake games and connected path games.
Mm.
And they actually talked about that specifically during the interview. They were, I believe, yeah, it was Jian Shim cited Linda Berry, who's a cartoonist,
mm,
about the fact that as we get older, we tend to feel that like success is the goal of creating art and not the joy
Mhm.
of creating art itself.
mm,
And they said, sorry to quote my own interview, but it was
mm,
they like Jian Shim and Xing and Core like blew my mind. So but Shim said, at some point you say, I'm not good at art. When does that happen? Because that means something shifted and it went from something that you did just for the joy of creating to something where it's about a value judgment placed on you from
mm,
outside of you. It happens to
Mm.
everybody, and some people recover from it and some people don't. And these games that they're developing kind of aid in that ability to recover that sense of play and appreciation of the joy of creation, even if like it's something that you struggle with, especially as a like as a creative person, especially as a professional creative person, where it's not something you just do for fun, but it's also something you do for work.
Mm,
Um,
Mhm.
so these games that give you permission to indulge in that need to create without the pressure of like needing to market it are
mhm,
Yeah.
so refreshing, and they're such a wonderful gateway.
mm,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they sound super useful, especially for that, for creators to just create something for themselves that's not for anybody else. They don't have to show it to everybody else. They don't have to like promote it to anybody. It's just something that's personal that you can do that's nice just for you. It's the
Yeah.
self hug
yeah.
that
That's
never
nice.
do, you know?
Yeah, I know for creative people, we also have this problem to a certain extent, but for people who have like, yeah, kind of labeled themselves as not creative and they go into fields that aren't like what we would obviously think of as art, then there's often like a block of like, I'm not good at this. So I'm probably not even going to try for like a lot of different things. Like, yeah, embroidery for sure. And knitting and crochet or painting or any of those things. And it's like, you can do things that you're not good at and just, yeah, for the joy of it. And I think sometimes there's just a level of not being able to enjoy something because you're not good at it that people struggle with, that, yeah, has to come in sometime in childhood because kids are
Yeah.
not naturally good at anything necessarily. So
Right.
it's like they're
No one's
still
normal.
learning, but they have fun learning and they have fun trying things that they're not good at. And like at some stage, yeah, having that value judgment of like, I'm not good at it and thus it makes me upset and I don't even want to try it. It's like, oh, that's so hard. I don't know. I'm happy for games and things like that that can get people out of that comfort zone and or expand that comfort zone to include trying things that aren't necessarily something that they just are instantly good at without ever, putting any effort
Trying.
into.
And I think that maybe that's been exacerbated by like our culture of everything you do has to be something that you market, or like
Mm-hmm.
you should make that a side hustle, which I hate that word. It's like, okay, so I can't just live and do my thing. I also have to spend every waking moment like telling people about it, or like, if you have something you want to share, that's great. But like if people just like writing poetry, for instance, for themselves, like why do they have to be told to do a book? Unless they decide they want to. And if it gives them joy, like just let
Mm-hmm.
them do that thing. And I think it's because people are constantly looking for sources of entertainment. So they get bored very easily and they're just looking for the next thing. And so they're looking for that and expect everyone that has a skill to put that out there, or else you're not being productive, or it doesn't have any value or
Mm-hmm.
commercial value or things like that. And that's just not true. And I think it is interesting to find, or to like reassure yourselves that there is value in things that you just do for fun.
Fun.
Like
Yeah, like the
that's
different type of value. It's not always like a monetary value. I
Mm-hmm.
think
yeah.
some like a half of like hustle culture definitely comes from struggle culture too,
Oh,
though, because I know that there are people that like want to or feel the need to monetize everything that they do, their hobbies, their faith, their entire life, because they think that that equates to a success. But then there are other people who have to have or have had to have a side hustle, or their parents had to have a side
mhm.
hustle, and so they still have that mentality of even though you're working full time, you do still have to find another way to make money because you still have to make ends meet. Like
Yeah.
you're still struggling. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a duality that comes with it. And I think that sometimes when people are like there was this girl who was making all this content, like shaming people for monetizing their hobbies. And I
Oh,
was like, okay, um, you definitely let people know they don't have to monetize their hobbies if they don't want to. It's not a requirement. But some people's hobbies are things that they want to do for their career, but can't afford
mm,
to quit their day job to do it. So if they want to monetize that hobby, go for it. Let them do what they want to do. It's like this weird judgment that comes from people, who have the leisure time that some people don't have. And so they're
Mhm.
like, no, you don't have to sell yourself. And someone else is like, well, like I kind of have to so that I can
Hmm.
get bread today. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's such a dual like meaning behind it, because some people can afford to have time to just do whatever they want, which is incredible, and some people can't. And then there are some people who want their side hustle to be their career, and
Mhm.
they've never been supported in that way. People told them that that wasn't a real job, and that they couldn't have a family and pay their bills with it, so they just like kind of do it on the side, quietly, and like wish for the day that maybe someday someone will give them the opportunity to turn their side hustle into their life.
Mhm.
It's such
Yeah.
an interesting sort of like difference between how people like word things and how they say it and how other people take it, because it
Mm.
sucks to think that some people will never pursue art as a career because they were discouraged to. And there are
Mhm.
some people who they can just do it. They can just they just have that opportunity to just do it no matter what, because they have the support that they need to
Mhm.
to do
Yes.
it.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that's also part of the trouble with things just being like a broad message given on the internet, is like not every
Yeah,
piece of advice is very useful for everybody. And
yeah,
so
right.
I think sometimes people think that they're talking to only people in their exact same situation. And so they're
That's
like,
true.
yeah, like if you're like me and you have a stable life, then like don't don't turn all your side hobbies into careers. But then of course there are people who are like, I'm just trying to get by, and anything that I can add to this, I will. And so yeah, and everything you described, like it's not necessarily the right information for those people who are in those situations, and it can
Yeah.
start to feel like, yeah, that I don't know, you can't do anything right because there's always somebody
Yeah.
who's like
Mhm.
gonna criticize you about it, it seems like.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. This person who there's another person who was like, she felt badly about trying to sell her art because it was like her friend that said don't monetize your hobbies. And she's like, now I feel bad. Like, should I not try to make art prints? And I was like, do you want to make art prints?
Yeah.
Then do it. Like, don't
Then do
listen to
it.
anyone, just do it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like, I felt like some people were taking it in that way. Like, now I feel like I'm selling myself out. Like I'm selling out if I try to create
Mhm.
something and sell it. I'm like, nah, dude, do it, dude. Don't listen
Yeah.
to anybody, man. Do what you want.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes some people, they really do get burnt out when they start to try to turn the thing that they loved into a whole job, and that like that kills the joy. Yeah, they kill when
I know
you.
what that's like.
Sorry, Thais, are you?
I'm
Can you?
okay.
Okay. If you're, yeah, if you're struggling, if you could mute yourself, that would be. Sorry, it's just really loud in my ears, but that's okay. No. That, yeah, like sometimes it really saps the joy for people to have to become their own like marketing agent and producer and all this other stuff. And yeah, in that case, obviously that's not the right thing for you. But I think that for people who have a lot of different creative interests, and you're trying to make that your living, and you really feel passionately about it, there is such a weird part of like work culture where if you get a lot of pleasure out of your job and you're just like having a really good time with it all the time, then people don't like that.
Yeah, they get
um
upset.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
They think it's weird. Yeah.
yeah, like they think like if you're just having fun, then you're not really working.
It's not
And
really working.
so,
Exactly. I hate that. Oh, it's so rude.
yeah, and it's like that kind of goes back to some of what we were talking about, of like just taking the time to sit and enjoy a beautiful day or something like that. That that can be a part of your day without you having to feel bad that you're not like working or something. But I feel like because we're so used to just like the hustle kind of thing of like go go go, then if you're sitting down and just like decompressing, just giving yourself the time you need to relax and recharge, it can start to feel like I'm going to get in trouble with somebody because I'm not working, and or like this is a part
Yeah.
of me working and nourishing my creative self, but it feels good, like drawing or yeah, any kind of thing that you take pleasure out of. It's like we can just have
Yeah.
fun. It doesn't have to be about work work work. It doesn't work itself doesn't have to be a struggle for it to be work. Like
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I know when we did stuff for issue 4 of Hazel, a lot of the things that people talked about with the ritual theme was self-care.
mhm.
And I remember being asked, like, what do you do for self care? And I was like, I'm actually really bad at this. And I don't have like this mentality that it's okay to just relax and do nothing and practice whatever, it is that you need to rest and replenish yourself. Like, because I've been so, you know, in like it's been so ingrained in me that if you're just sitting there or you're taking a nap, like how dare you? Like you need to spend every waking moment, doing something. And so then it's not really self-care or relaxation because the whole time I'm like, you could be doing the dishes or you could be posting whatever like on social media, or you
Mhm.
could be reaching out to what, and there's always something that you should be doing. And it's like, no, there is time to just exist. Like life is not all work, like there is something else besides, there's many things besides that, besides work, that are just as important to feel like a whole person. And so that's something I've been struggling with a lot and learning a lot about recently, especially in this past year, which is like, no, that it's good to just do nothing. Like it really is, or to do
And
things
it's
that,
okay to do nothing.
yeah, like that is a novel concept to me. Like you can just do nothing for a
Yeah.
while.
Just lay down and look at the ceiling for a little bit.
And
Yes.
that, yeah, you just need that sometimes, or like your brain or your body just doesn't have 24/7 to give to the world,
Yeah,
and people, I feel
absolutely.
like people that talk about optimizing their day, it's like I don't know if they really, if that's really what they're doing, because there's no way that you just have 100% to give, to everything you're doing the whole day or the whole week or the whole year. Like I
Hmm.
know, Lucy, you've talked about there being seasons to
Mm.
projects, and like that there is a rest season, and it's absolutely essential to be present for that. And that's really helped me with my own project. So
That's good. Yeah.
I hate summer.
Oh.
Summer is
Oh.
my rest season. It's the worst. I can't stand being hot. It just makes me want to melt into the floor.
I know. It feels like you have to slow down and just do everything so much more slowly in the summer because it's too hot to be running around and oops, doing exercise or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I just want to stay indoors, even
Yeah,
Yeah.
though
Either that or be in the ocean.
yes. Ooh,
I'm so
yeah.
scared of the ocean.
Oh yeah.
Someone take me to the ocean. Yeah, I'm so scared of the ocean. It's
oh,
beautiful. I cannot get. I know. I've never been like in the ocean.
Wow.
I will get up to it and it can touch my feet or maybe my ankles, but not my knees. If it gets close to my knees, I'm like, no way.
oh
Hmm.
wow.
It'll suck me
Sometimes
in and eat me.
Yeah, I get scared of it a little bit. I know when I was little, I used to watch a lot of like natural disasters kind of shows when I was at like a family friend's house because my parents would be like talking to the adults and I was like, ooh, they have cable and like I would be somehow somehow I was just watching natural disaster shows and like the stuff about like rip currents. I was so afraid of being like swept out to sea. And then sometimes when I'm in the ocean and I can't see what's below me, I just get terrified of like, what if there's a shark, or what if there's something else that's gonna bite me? Like, yeah, like you never know what's down there. And then when I think of like the vastness of the ocean, like the really, really deep parts out there that we obviously don't really get to see, it's the same as like thinking about outer space to me, where you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying. It's so big out there.
Yeah, that we're just like on a rock that's floating in space, going around the sun,
Yeah.
Other rocks.
around other rocks or gaseous planets and planetoids and asteroids and all kinds of other
Floating.
things
Yeah.
floating.
Yeah.
Just hanging on.
Yeah.
Gravity. Thank God for gravity.
Just trusting it. Just trusting gravity. Just trusting that it won't go away.
I mean, I know that
Yeah.
stuff tends to overwhelm me a lot. Like if I just think about, oh, just nothing matters because you're a speck in the universe. Like,
Gosh,
okay, maybe
yeah.
it's not the greatest thought to have.
No,
But
no.
No,
But I think sometimes you do need to have that thought just for like humility. Like, okay, I am not the bee's knees all the time.
or like
Just
for
some
fun
of
of
the
these
time.
series is.
Hmm.
Yeah, respect.
Jocelyn
So
says
I
that
should
she's
just
the
eat
bee's
all this
knees
ice
all the
cream.
time.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
a
Some
sweet.
people
I
are
really
just
get
not
that
as
fourth cat.
confident.
Mhm.
She says sorry for them. You're terrible.
Huh? It's tight.
Yeah,
You talk. Oh, back. You got people you're talking to back there.
I am my wife.
Ah, yes. I
She's listening
figured.
in,
Ah, well.
but she can hear live,
Ah,
not on YouTube.
I see. Well, yeah, I know it's also like the thing with the ocean and outer space, they have like a lot of correspondences, a lot of similarities. It's like you can't breathe out there in either one of them. And yeah, they're not for you. They're a place of death for human beings.
Yeah, no
So,
pressure.
yeah, and there's just like certainly a sense of like things that are bigger than yourself and like just so unknowable in ways. I don't know. Whales are cool.
Fascinating. Yeah,
Whales are cool.
super fascinating, like incredible to think about. And I do love watching like documentaries about deep sea life and deep space. Like my
Yeah.
brother and I will like do this exactly this. We'll like Zoom call each other and just like watch documentaries together
Mm.
and like flip out about it and like laugh. And then we turn it off and then we think about it like in our brains and freak out a little bit.
Mhm.
oh
It's
no.
probably worse than a scary movie. Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
just
because it's
stays
real.
with you.
Yeah. It's like that is real. You can't just say it was a movie and walk away from it.
Yeah. What did we just watch? What was that movie? Oh, with Kristen Stewart. We just watched a horror, a deep sea like horror movie with Kristen Stewart.
Oh yeah,
Huh.
I
It
know
was
the one
called.
you're talking about. I forget the
It's
name of it.
probably called like Deep Ocean or something. Deep
Mm.
Sea movie, but it was great. It was really interesting. It definitely gave me that like yeah, we really don't know what's in the deepest depths of the ocean. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Yeah, I know that kind of thing also really scared me as a kid, especially when you're like, you don't really have a firm boundary between like imagination and reality.
Oh,
And
Still don't.
yeah.
I still don't.
I still don't. Yeah, I really don't. Like,
Yeah, I had like a few of those times where, sometimes you've just like believed something or thought about something one way your whole life until you say it out loud, and then you realize like, oh, that can't be true. Like
Yeah.
for me, I would have dreams that I thought were real, and I would, one of them, like I had some kind of like Barbie toys or something, and I was in waking life later like, whatever happened to those Barbie toys? And it's like, I don't think I ever actually owned those. I think it was a dream. But like,
Yeah.
for example, like the one thing was, since I watched a lot of those shows whenever I was at someone's house where they had cable, it would be like outer space stuff too, not just natural disasters. And so in my dream, I dreamed that they were showing, like, imagine like a zoomed out image of the earth with like a bunch of stuff floating around it, and there was like a rocking chair floating out in space and like some other random things, and it was like talking about when you lose something, it goes to the disappearing place sometimes and you can't get it back. Like if you're like, oh, I can't find, I'm gonna go back to like my Barbie shoe or something, like it's in the disappearing place, it's in outer space floating around our planet. And I thought that was real for so long until I was like mentioning it to a classmate in 5th grade, and then I was like, oh wait, no.
That
And
means
they're
it's
like,
not
that's
real.
stupid. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is.
That's so cute, though. That's like such an interesting. I know that there are probably a lot of things that it took me a long time to realize that weren't real as well. I
Mm,
can't think of any right now, but when you started saying that, I was like, oh, I know that feeling for
yeah.
sure. Like I know that.
I mean,
Yeah.
for us, like for Natalia and I, we're sisters. In case people don't know, like mom would talk about fairies and like how we had to go to sleep so that the fairies could come inside.
Oh.
And like I really thought that that was a real thing for a while until like other people were saying no, that those are not real. Fairies aren't real. And I'm like, no, you're crushing my entire existence. No.
I feel like your family has had like a lot of paranormal stuff going on though, right? Like
Yes.
y'all have, people have seen some ghosts. Like it's not that far off for you
Yes, it
guys.
was not.
I mean, yeah, I probably mentioned before, but if not, yes, I have had experiences with things
Mhm.
that cannot be explained,
Mm,
and our family has like a lot of, has had anyway, like a lot of premonition dreams and
mm,
those sort of things. So I feel that there is some weight to when people talk about that, and it's
mm-hmm.
not like, oh, that just doesn't exist, because
Yeah.
it's been so like pervasive in so many cultures that it's like
Hmm.
there's no way to just say that and make someone feel dumb for thinking it, or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
they just oh, I just made that up, or but I definitely know what you mean though.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have many experiences of my own. I just get a lot of deja vu. Like especially growing up, I was like, I dreamed that this would happen. Like I feel that I had this moment happen in a dream exactly. It's very familiar. And my classmates also were like, that's dumb. No, you didn't, and all that. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I won't mention it, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
I still will get like a lot of deja vu where it really feels like I have experienced this before, and
Hmm.
like in this sequence of events.
That's very interesting. I have hyper familiarity syndrome, which
Mm.
I found out like I guess like about 2 years ago, and I have the same experiences. I have them to where I can like tell you, like frame by frame everything that happened in a situation, and then have that situation happen. But
Mm.
also there are places that I've dreamt about loads of times, and then I'll see them at a certain point and then like freak out and be like, I've never been here before, but I've dreamt of this place for sure, like I know it. And then I have to like
Mm.
ask myself, did you really, I have to like recall the dream and make
Hmm.
sure the dream was real, or
Mm.
whether or not it's just my brain telling me that I've had that experience before, because it's
Mm.
sometimes I really can't tell, which is why logging dreams is very important. But yeah, it's
Amazing.
people's faces. Like I'll see people's faces and I'll know them already. I'll swear that I know them already. So I'm really like congenial, and I feel like I know people all the time because their face looks like a face that I've seen, you know, hundreds of times. So I'm just like very like friendly with everybody because I'm like, oh yeah, it's just it's Lucy. I know. I see her all the time, but I won't like people in public all the time. I'll stare at them and I'll be like, hey, and they're like, hi, stranger, and I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. My brain tells me that I know you, but I guess I really don't. Like, it's
Mm.
no
Yeah.
big deal.
Oh, that's
But one of the
interesting.
biggest symptoms of it is deja vu, like having really, really extreme deja vu,
Mm.
knowing that you experienced something before. Super interesting.
How'd you get diagnosed?
From a therapist. I was doing like because I have really horrible headaches
Mm.
and like really interesting, bizarre brain movements and stuff like that, and really, really bad vertigo.
Mm.
So about
Oh,
3 years ago, yeah, it sucks. About 3 years ago, I started having testing done for it because I was passing out at work,
Mm.
and so I
ooh.
had MRIs and stuff like that, and all kinds of like brain scans and stuff,
Mhm.
and they found out that I have Dandy Walker syndrome, which is a birth defect that I never knew I had, and my parents never knew I had because I
Mhm.
didn't show any symptoms of it until my 30s, which is like really
Wow.
rare. Yeah, it's super rare and bizarre. But yeah, and so through figuring out that I had that, I started going through all this other testing just to see like what it was affecting. It
Mhm.
affects my neurological system. It affects my perception. It affects so much of my brain that I wanted to know like what else was going on because of Dandy Walker syndrome. Because that
Wow.
was one of the things, like hyperfamiliarity syndrome. Just see this feeling like I know everyone and like I
Mm.
every experience, not every experience, but lots of places are completely familiar to me, and I could tell you like how to get around a place or how to get into a place that I've never been before, which like
Mhm.
makes zero sense, but there is a scientific
That's so
reason for it.
interesting.
It
Wow.
is. It's really bizarre, and that was one of the biggest things for me was finding out that I have hyperfamiliarity syndrome because I do feel very comfortable around strangers, and it
Mm.
was always something that like people thought was kind of weird. It's like, well, they're not strangers. I know them. I know
Mm.
everyone.
No one's a
I've seen them
stranger.
before.
Yeah.
They're my friends. That's no big deal. Like, yeah, they're fine. They're good. So it was something really interesting to me is like just seeing someone's face and feeling like I know them and just feeling like comfortable with them already.
Wow.
Mm.
It's bizarre. Yeah, yeah, it's an
That's
interesting thing.
really
But
interesting.
yeah, the deja vu thing about it, I think is really interesting because I do have deja vu all of the time, like all the
Mm.
time.
Mm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting that a lot of artists and writers have some kind of mental illness, quote
Yeah,
unquote, or some kind of something that
Like
is different about them.
neurodivergence,
yeah,
something like
Mm.
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because mental
Um,
illness is like it's sort of. I mean, I definitely have it, and it's a stigmatized thing.
yeah.
But yeah, like something is like different activity is happening.
Yeah.
Different activities. Yeah, different
right.
pathways going on. Different castles in the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely have lots of different castles in there.
Yeah. But yeah, creativity, like you were saying, is
I think because we have a different perspective,
Hmm.
like we there's something innate in us that wants to share it in some kind of form, even if it's just for ourselves to just look back at it and be like, oh yeah, that's what my brain is trying to show me,
Mm.
Yeah.
right? So either in written form or in a visual form or even a digital form, however it is that we decide to manifest it. I just think it's so fascinating that I would say like a majority of people who are creatives have something going on in their brains at some point in their lives or constantly in their lives.
Yeah, yeah. As a way to express what you're seeing, yeah, and what you're
Yeah,
feeling. Because like
yeah,
this world is beautiful, but it doesn't always present something in a way that we can like express how we feel about it directly. We have to create something to show you how we feel about it. Like, this is how I feel
Exactly.
about this because you're not giving me the words or the visuals that make
Mhm.
sense to me. So I'm going to give you the ones that make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've
Definitely. Yeah.
I've always been told that I was very articulate, but personally, I feel like I'm really bad with words. And so visually, it's like I don't have to explain it to you. Like you can see whatever it is that I'm feeling or thinking, or that I'm expressing an idea, and take that versus me trying to explain to you like this is what I'm hoping to achieve with this piece or this is how I'm feeling right now. Like that's also one reason I connect so well to music. That's
Mm-hmm.
always been a part of me that like if I just don't have music going on, I feel like a catatonic person where
Mm.
it just has to be there for me to feel like I can function or concentrate. And music tells, for me, like if I recommend something to somebody, it's like I'm telling you this is how I feel based on this song or like this
Mm.
track or whatever
Mm-hmm.
because I myself like cannot express these things. Like if I were, I'm thinking of starting a blog at some point and it's like, can I really write this stuff? Like it's really hard for me to express certain things with words. So, that there's definitely something to be said about interpretation and like the visual aspect or the creative aspect of expressing things that I think also doesn't have as much value to people, in many ways.
Yeah, there's not always as enough, or there's a weird imbalance of value placed on these things where people really want that kind of creative content but don't want to pay for it and things like that.
Mhm.
But I know, kind of speaking of expressing yourself through your medium and not feeling like you have the words to do it any other way. I think it was Ursula K. Le Guin talking about her book, The Left Hand of Darkness, where she was like, if I had another way to say this, I would just say it that
Mm-hmm.
way. But this book is the metaphor, like for what I'm trying to express. Like this whole novel is trying to get across an idea. That I just don't have another way of getting across. And I think, um, yeah, that's true of a lot, like most art, probably. I think, it's hard when we grow up going to schools that don't always have all of the best ways for students to learn available to the students, but then you're supposed to be memorizing like what the meaning of the Great Gatsby is or something, and students
Yeah.
don't necessarily connect to it. But it's like, no, your English teacher isn't like just making stuff up. Like the reason that writers write, the reason that painters paint is usually to convey something, whether it's a fully formed idea or an emotion. And there's just not like a strong uh, yeah, educational program that's available to absolutely everyone that helps people get that idea. I had a really good teacher and I got that stuff, but it took me a long time after high school to realize that like not everyone has access to
Right.
those kinds of learning materials. So they just don't put the same value necessarily on writing um, and painting and stories and things.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, let's see. I know Natalia has just disappeared, but I guess we should probably get close to wrapping things up. We've had a lovely afternoon so far, and we'll wait till Natalia comes back to completely wrap things up. But did you just get started crocheting, Mint, or have you been doing that in the background?
Oh, I've been doing it in the background. Yeah.
Okay. What are you working on? Is it gonna be another purse or?
No, I'm making some like elemental berets, just in like
Ooh.
different colors, some like earthy colors, and then I have some like fiery colors,
Mm.
Mm.
and then air and water, and then I'll like stitch the elemental symbol on the back so that you can just have a fire beret for no
Yeah.
reason.
That's so
Cool.
good. Yeah, I really liked the candle that I finally lit from you
Oh
the other day.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't get it on camera on my Instagram, but the way that the like glitter or the
Yeah.
iridescence just like pours out from where the flame is was like
Oh.
so beautiful, so magical, and
Awesome.
yeah, I just can't get over all the little bits of glitter and herbs and things that are like floating in the top of the wax there. So
Awesome.
that's so fun. Oh,
Love it. I love making candles. I have to make some candles at some point this week. I haven't made candles in a while.
yeah. I
So do.
I had broken a cup. Well, actually, one of this mug is from Tiny Cloud Ceramics, and one of the ones she sent me um, came broken, unfortunately, in the mail. And I don't. I have looked very deep online to see if there's anything that's actually food safe when it's going to touch boiling hot water multiple times a day in terms of glue to glue these things back together. And I like yeah, I don't believe that anything is. And I really hoped I could find something that was. But even stuff that says food safe is like you're not supposed to get it in contact with the food all the time. It's just like
Yeah.
okay if you do sometimes. So what I've been doing instead is I glued it back together and I made a candle with it. I just filled it up with wax, and it's really cute. And I have another teacup that I also broke myself trying to get it down from a high shelf. And I'm thinking about making that into a candle, but the main design of the teacup is actually on the inside. So if I could find some kind of clear wax or something, I could think that could be really neat.
Yeah, to be able to see it. That'd be really cute.
Yeah. Yep.
Or you could fill it with resin and
Hmm.
like fill it with other cute things.
That could be a really cute
That
little
would be
art piece.
cute. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Have something like bathing in it, like
Uh,
relaxing in it. That would
Oh,
be
or
yeah.
like
so
have different
cute.
like flowers in there, like lavender and some other
Oh,
I
things that
did
yeah.
are
show you some of
floating.
your illustrations, Lucy, where you had like
Oh,
someone taking a bath in a thing of hot tea, and it's just
yes.
I love
comforting.
that. That's one of my favorite
Hmm.
things. Things like
Yeah.
anything bathing in tea is so cute to me.
Yeah, it just seems like the coziest thing in the world to just be like in a
Yeah.
nice hot cup of tea with lots of flowers.
Mhm.
Oh, Melissa, was there anything else you were working on? Artistic projects of one kind or another?
Not at the moment, no. I've been busy like all week. So my
Oh,
biggest projects right now are checking my email. It's a
oof.
thrill.
I understand that.
I have been in a point where, like, I think email inbox cleanup is one of the first things to go when I get stressed. And so
Mm.
things are just piling up and piling up. So I understand.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I had like a really fun week, but the result is an overflowing inbox when normally I am like like stringent about cleaning it out every day.
Hmm.
Same.
Yeah,
Everything
I,
naturally.
on a good day, I'll be like that. Yeah. But yeah, uh, when it's a bad day, I am just like everyone stop trying to talk to me. I look at my inbox and I see things coming in, and it can be like spam, and I'm like, please stop trying to talk to me. I cannot take this in right now. There's no discernment of like friend or yeah, spam email. I'm just like I can't. Please stop.
Friend or foe.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
There's certain days where I could get an email that's like, "You're doing a great job," and I would be like, "Don't stop. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to be
Yeah.
spoken to."
I totally
Mhm.
understand that. So yeah, I just don't want to be perceived
Yep.
sometimes. Like I don't exist
Exactly.
right now. Please leave me alone.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it's getting close to 4, so we've been going for like about an hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes, and it's been so much fun talking with y'all. And I'm almost done with both of my beverages now. So yeah, really, really nice. I feel like we touched on some really great topics, and it was so nice to hear what everybody is up to, and all the things we can look forward to seeing from this group as you continue to share your talents with the world. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything we want to say to wrap up or anything, but this has been great. I'm just so glad to be able to hang out with everybody.
For sure.
I this toasted cheese is
Mhm.
amazing. I would recommend it.
Okay.
Thank you
Yes.
for sharing the Pinterest board full of recipe and inspiration, because this toasted cheese has made my whole day.
Oh my gosh. I might have to go to the store and grab some feta and make this happen.
Yeah.
I've
It's really
definitely.
easy too.
That's good. Yeah, I've
Go
been
on
in.
Lucy's Pinterest board to find the recipe.
I'm gonna
Yes.
find it. Yeah.
Yes. My Pinterest board is a wild mix of things where you're like, I do not have time for that, and like, ooh, that would be nice and easy, and I can just put some cheese in the oven. But the stuff that I don't have time for is very aspirational, very like, I want to be able to make a like cardamom cake with raspberry gin filling and some kind of, I don't know what the icing was, some kind of buttercream. But I'm like, I would love to just be able to have a weekend to do that. But as it is, yeah, just like having to feed myself right now, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm like, just let's just eat guacamole and chips for dinner. That's what it's gonna be.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah.
That's a healthy
Honestly,
dinner.
guacamole and chips is delicious. So
I
Yes.
love guacamole. My goodness, I could just spoon it and just eat it.
Oh my gosh. Yes, me too. I was joking because my boyfriend was like, "We don't have any chips." And I was like, "We have the little crumbs of the chips. We can just pour that over top and then eat it with a spoon." It's good. So,
That works.
Gotta repurpose every part.
Every bit.
Every
yeah.
crumb.
Yup.
Great.
Well, I hope everyone gets lots of time to recharge, not feel super overwhelmed. Just take some time to stop and, like we were saying, just enjoy the day. Just stare at some
Exist.
leaves. Yeah. Just stare at a candle or something. Like, totally, yeah. De stress, and then we'll have the energy to face the next day. So
Yeah, in the next week.
yes, yep. It's
Sometimes the next minute.
yes,
That too. Yeah.
but it's been a lovely Sunday chat, and I can't wait to share not only the first and second issues of Hazel again, because I know some people missed out on those and didn't get those the first time around, so I'm really glad we can bring those back, but also our new PDF with a bunch of fun new stuff. I'm gonna have to go check and see how well our Kickstarter is, if we're getting close to maybe being able to print it out. That would be cool.
Yeah. We've got 35 backers now.
Yay! Oh, awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
so exciting. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. So, thank you for joining me this afternoon, and also for your contributions to Hazel. It's made an amazing zine both last year and this year. So,
Yeah.
so excited. Thank you.
Yay.
thank you
Thanks
for
for
this
having us.
Yeah.
wonderful lunchtime for me chat.
Yay! Oh, good. Oh, we'll at least go ahead and end the stream so we can all say goodbye to our viewers. Have a lovely end of the weekend. Take care. All right, I just hit end.